state of California is in talks with Valero, the oil refinery, to pay up to $200 million to avoid shutting down their refinery. What? California Energy Commission didn't come up with a buyer for a refinery built in 1968? Now, here's the jury-rigged plan. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's take a quick step back. And one of the major issues that Valero had with state of California is, hey, you fined the heck out of us unnecessarily. And then with all your decades and decades of overregulation of the oil industry, we're out. We're out. Let's take a look at that fine. Okay, when you listen to this woman speak, this is why it's this kind of attitude. It's this whole deal with California that is propelling them to the point where, hey, we don't even want to try and sell it. We don't want to keep our refinery open because you guys are so harsh to deal with that there's no point. The outlook for oil and gas in California that's been what California's been saying for decades. Oh, we need to be so green. Let's hear this woman talk, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about.
Marilyn Bardet lives a mile away from Valero's Benicia refinery. For the past 2 decades, she's been on high alert when it comes to air quality issues involving the facility, and she's done her part to keep the air quality district informed.
If I see darkened smoke coming out of any of the stacks, I get in my car, I rush out, I take videos of it, and then I report it to the district.
Marilyn and other neighbors even created
You live next to a refinery. That's what happens. You knew that going into this. People.
a group dedicated to monitoring air quality impacts from the refinery in the hopes of keeping the agency accountable.
My grandchildren live just a couple blocks here from the fence line, so I'm constantly on the alert for emissions.
And their decades of pushing for accountability paying off today, with the Bay Area Air Quality District and California Air Resources Board announcing a nearly $82 million fine against Valero's Benicia refinery. It's the largest penalty in Air District history and is connected to a 2019 inspection where inspectors discovered unreported emissions from the refinery's hydrogen system containing 8,400 tons of harmful compounds. Inspectors say refinery management knew about the problems for at least 16 years, but never reported them. And air quality officials say that a majority of the funds from this $82 million fine will be used to address air pollution issues in surrounding communities. More than $64 million will fund projects to reduce air pollution exposure and improve public health in communities near the refinery. But air quality officials want to get public input before deciding on specific projects.
There needs to be consequences when facilities violate our rules. And if the penalties aren't sufficiently high enough, it becomes a cost of doing business, and we don't want that to be the case.
The refinery responded to the fine, saying in a statement today that Valero is committed to environmental compliance and has worked closely with the district to make progress in reducing emissions containing trace levels of organic compounds from the hydrogen vent well before this settlement was reached. And for these Benicia residents, they hope the penalty against Valero sends a message to other local refineries when it comes to their impact on nearby communities.
I think that if the refineries say, oh, wow, the district is really issuing more substantial fines now, that they may take notice also.
In Benicia, 𝗧𝗜𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗣𝗏. NBC.
And you wonder how California gets gas prices the way that they do. I mean, it's my understanding that the fine was basically because of just restrictions that California has that make it basically prohibitive to refine oil into gas products. Just prohibitive. You can't do it. You got a refinery, you're gonna have some stuff go up into the air. That's just how the game is played. You turn a gas car, a diesel car on, diesel truck, you get a jet engine going, you're gonna have some stuff going in the environment. That's normal. But in California, everybody's all, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So that on top of California basically saying, hey, no more new gas vehicles sold after 2035. If you're a refinery, you're going to look at this and go, we're not dealing. Homie, don't play that game. Right? We're not dealing. So, but now, because Gavin Newsom is looking at a 2028 presidential run, he needs gas prices to stay at where they're at, which is the highest in the nation, but it's not outrageously high. I think Washington State oftentimes has more expensive gas than California. You guys send me, you know, clips of what you're paying for gas. And I'm like, ugh, yeah, I wish I could pay that little. And I'm in Washington State. That's a whole nother thing. California lawmakers could bail out Bay Area oil refinery to stave off closure. So Valero has said, hey, we're going to close this California plant, Benicia plant, Northern California in San Francisco. And when that happens, along with the Phillips 66 plant, it restricts the ability for California to refine their crude oil into gasoline products, diesel products by 17%, and prices will spike. So everybody knows that whole supply demand thing, and demand has been steady in California. Demand has been steady. So in order to stave that off, and we also had the issue of California Energy Commission was tasked by Newsom to try and sell these refineries. Hey, would you like two slightly used? And the one we're talking about here was built in 1968, I believe. I mean, that is ancient. That is old as dirt. Now, that's how old I am. So all of you guys out there and gals out there in 1968. Great year. Great year. Great year. California could pay hundreds of millions of dollars, between $80 and $200 million, to cover maintenance costs of Valero's energy company's refinery in Benicia in an effort to stave off the plant's closure. Because if the plant closes, Gavin Newsom's chances of being elected just go boop, because we know this is the end result. Everybody knows it. And it would just be one more thing that the opposing party, Republicans, would just, they're just going to tee off on them. They're just going to absolutely tee off on them. Hey, Newsom, podcaster Newsom, you got the highest inflation, you got the highest gas taxes, you got the highest gasoline prices, you got the highest income taxes, you got the highest housing costs. The list just goes on and on and on. And he doesn't want to have one more thing out there as a buyer objection to his presidential hopes. So, hey, let's figure out if we can pay him off and keep this bad boy open and, at least through 2028, at least through the election. The outlet reported Tuesday that yesterday, California legislators are in talks to spend between $80 and $200 million in state funds. Californians, this is your money being spent. This is your taxpayer money being spent because of overregulation and just this whole, we need green energy. We need clean energy. Well, yeah, you don't need it that bad because all of this stuff that you're doing really has minimal impact on the climate in general. I mean, tiny. It's nothing in comparison with the impact on the working population of California for having gas prices spike to maybe $10. And there's leadership in, where was it? A city that started with a B in California that said, hey, we could go to $12 a gallon based on really, Bakersfield, I think it was, really reducing the supply by as much as we're talking about. So yeah, in state funds on the facility, which was built in 1968, so it's old. It needs a bunch of maintenance. It needs updating. It needs to be closed down every now and then. And, you got to do your thing. You can't just be running that refinery while you're doing updates to whatever or maintenance or whatever. And it's the 6th largest refinery in California. So when you take that down often, which is what's needed in a refinery from 1968, you've got this issue where the supply of oil tends to spike because you've taken out the ability for that refinery to do what it does. And Gavin Newsom basically said, hey, instead of having these spikes in prices, we're going to require you, the refinery, to basically hold in reserve a whole bunch of oil so it levels out these spikes. And you're like, but this is normal. This is how this works. You got to shut down a refinery every now and then, and you don't put the onus on the refinery, because you put enough onuses on the refinery, they're going to say, you know what? Stick it. We're going elsewhere. I mean, that's what Chevron's talking about doing right now, pulling out of the state. They've been in the state 145 years. They've already moved their headquarters to Houston. Talking about pulling out because, hey, go screw yourself. We'll do business elsewhere. Now, people don't want to miss out on business in the fourth largest economy in the world, but there's a limit to which that makes sense, and California is there. And so talks on the sale of this refinery, of these refineries, probably didn't go through, right? This one is set to close in April. And, I mean, we're in September now. You get a complicated residential transaction. You get a complex commercial transaction. You don't have enough time to put a transaction by April together. I mean, if it's complex, if you got a bunch of moving parts on that transaction by April from now, tricky. But an oil refinery? Are you kidding me? I mean, you might have a letter of intent put together. I don't really know what the sale of an oil facility looks like, but it's the sale of a business, right? So, hey, we got a guy that's willing to buy it and a bridge in the middle of the desert. This guy's got an appetite for buying stuff. Valero, which is headquartered in San Antonio, said in April that it was considering closing the plant, not selling it, not idling it, closing it, because they don't want to deal with California. 6 months after state and local regulators handed it a record-setting fine for unlawful toxic emissions. Now, they were unlawful toxic emissions by California standards. And that's some of the rub there. Hey, it's an old refinery. It is not brand new. You don't have to renovate it to current standards. Oh, but you do. And so that whole thing of this is an old car, it's like Jay Leno with the old muscle cars having to meet current smog requirements. It's like, just if those cars are on the road and running, let them run. It is nothing compared to the ridiculousness that folks like Jay Leno create by flying around in their private jets. It's just a known quantity. You've got losers flying into Burning Man now on private jets. Like they've got their own airport there. They had 80,000 people coming in for a long week. And, they're all about the environment and they're all about, bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of hypocritical nonsense. Benicia leaders were reeling from the prospect of losing the top employer in their city of 26,000. It would decimate that city. Absolutely decimate it. California has a limited number of refineries, and closing one can impact prices at the pump. One forecast from the University of California Marshall School of Business in May said gas would go to $8 a gallon if the Benicia plant and another plant, Phillips 66 in LA, both closed. Now, the Phillips 66 plant is a newer plant, I believe. I believe that's much newer. So it's got some different circumstances there. But Phillips 66 is like, hey, we don't like what we're facing here in California, and you guys are hammering on us. We're probably going to close that bad boy down. Phillips plant may go offline around the fourth quarter of this year, according to Reuters. Bloomberg reports that lawmakers are keen on keeping the Benicia refinery open, as is Gavin Newsom. That is the big rub here, because you've got gasoline prices spiking. The enemy, Republicans, conservatives, are just going to point to, it's like during the pandemic when gas prices just went to the moon and Biden was in charge, and there was those little stickers you could put on gas pumps with picture of Biden with his arm up going, I did that, to the price of the gas. I mean, it's Republicans and conservatives are just going to say, hey, you guys brought this on yourself. This is what you get for progressive policy. This is what you get for decades and decades of hammering on big oil, knowing full well you need big oil because oil is in everything. Everything. And it's needed to get all your stuff around, whether it's, by shipping container, whether it's by train, whether it's by truck, car, vehicle, whatever, airplane, jet. They all use petrol products. So when gasoline prices spike, that creates that ripple effect, right? And it goes throughout the United States because California is such a big, economic entity, and you can't not do business with it. And so from that standpoint, it creates this impact that's not just local in California, but nationwide. And as a result, 𝗧𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗍, he realizes, oh, yeah, we have pushed things a little too far. What can we do for you to help us help you help us? What can we do here? Oh, money? Money to keep this bad boy going? Let's talk. Let's talk. All right. I'll give you $3. I'll give you $3 next Tuesday. Does that work? I know it's a low ball offer. Benicia comes up with, we'd like $400 million. Ooh, that's a little steep. So now they've got it down based on, I think there was 3 sources of people that said, hey, talks are going on, and somewhere between 80 and 200 million. The talks suggest a softening by Democrats. I love this. The talks suggest a softening by Democrats on the issue of oil. It's called bending the knee to reality. You've had decades of boneheaded policy that are coming home to roost. Yeah, we don't want to keep that refinery going. Don't really care what happens to the gas prices in your community because you've basically put us out of business. Go F yourself. That's what the business is saying, right? They have been critical of the oil industry for allegedly price gouging customers. Remember when 𝗧𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗠 did that? And then also Joe Biden? Man, did that guy fall off the face of the earth or what? Joe Biden, just boom, gone. Remember when Obama, he was still in the public eye for a long time after he was, out of office. Long time. Biden, is he alive? Do we even know? Do we care? No. Accusations the industry is denied and for the pollution it causes. It's a refinery. That's what happens. Stuff goes up into the air. Can't really be helped. Do you want to have economics that work for your working class and those less than that? And you know what? Costs are so exorbitant in California that it impacts everybody because there's so few people that aren't impacted by all of these rising costs. And California has the most, the highest number of costs that are number one in the country, right? And those are things you do not want to win the award of the year for. Lawmakers are now hoping to keep the industry alive in California in an effort to keep gas prices from skyrocketing. Because if they go up, it's one more thing that folks will say, Newsom did that. Even as the state presses forward with its planned transition to electric vehicles. Well, how's that going? How is that going? You are bending the knee on the spot. Oh, we got to do something. Discussions with lawmakers over keeping the Valero facility open were held as recently as this past weekend because they are up against a time deadline. Absent a deadline extension, legislators have until late Tuesday to submit bills for consideration. We don't know what happened. But I'm sure 𝗧𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗠 will make some kind of exception. And hey, we need to get this really going here. Valero shares dropped briefly on news of the talks, but have since recovered and were up 2.8%. All right, $161 a share. Newsom has in recent months taken a new tack with refiners. Oh, how come? Because they said they're going to shut down? Yeah, because of that. And encouraged regulators to work with the industry to maintain fuel supplies in a state that often has the nation's highest gasoline prices. The whole thing is it's absurd. It is absolutely absurd. The whole thing is Terrible progressive policy, all worked up about the climate. And you know what? You know where that gets you? Nowhere. Because guess what? It doesn't really have that much of an impact. So why are you doing it? Because you're a progressive Democrat and because you virtue signal all this nonsense without really thinking about the impact it has on reality. And since this is news for reasonable people who don't want to pay exorbitant gas prices, it's probably why you're watching. Hey, what's going on with gas in California? What's going on with gas in my state of California? I got a lot of people, a lot of folks out there. You guys are in California. You're watching this stuff because we get big numbers on the California stuff because it's such a huge, huge issue. And bottom line is, it's like so many of these other policies, these progressive policies that are literally just head up ass. It's one more layer of nonsense that people in California have to deal with. So when it comes to picking a president in 2028, make sure you vote for Gavin Newsom because he's responsible for a lot of this. And so, I mean, you want your country to run like this? There's your shot. There's your shot. Vote for Gavin Newsom. Otherwise, stay the heck away, right? Vote for, doesn't matter who's on the red ticket. Vote for them because they will not be doing this absolute nonsense. Hey, let's have some talks. Hey, can we bribe you guys with $200 million towards your repair costs? Oh, please don't shut down. Literally what's going on right now. Please, pretty please, with sugar on top. Don't shut down. That's what the bottom line of this story is. We'll pay you. What's your price? What's your price? What's your price? Wild stuff. But could we expect anything less from podcaster Newsom? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.